Hi everybody, welcome to another Patreon roundtable. It's just two folks this time from the Patreon tribe. It is yours truly, Michael Mercy, and I'm joined by the Ninja, the Grand Ninja Master, one of the biggest supporters of this channel, my good brother Scott Orr. It is so nice to finally chat with you.
Same here, Michael. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Unfortunately, no one else could make it to today's chat. We decided to move it to the Saturday instead of the normal Sunday just because, Scott, you said you weren't available on that Sunday time slot. So we'll, try moving it around to try to accommodate more people. We'll see if weeknights work for people as well.
Yeah, weeknights are good for me. Usually I'm Monday through Friday on my job. I have weekends off, but Sundays, at 2 your time, noon my time, I go to my parents' house for lunch every Sunday, so I don't want to miss that.
And Skype is awesome for talking with people all around the world. That's the great part about it. The part that's really tricky to coordinate is time zones. So there's some people in the UK. A couple people other side of North America, so that's always a little tricky. Measuring, getting those to line up. But today's topic, we're gonna chat about what's the best Transformers line. Now, for me, it's a pretty short conversation. It's G1, because the way I look at that question is, if I could only have one, just one in my whole collection, which one would I hang on to and then willingly give up everything else? And it's G1. There's no discussion there whatsoever. But if the question were to mean, well, goes without saying G1, but what else? Then I would go with actually the third-party Masterpiece Transformers. And I can't get nailed down on one company. I can't commit to just one company. Like, you know how there's some fans toys, fanboys, or certain brand specific fans. I really like a lot of X-Transbots offerings, but sometimes I like a fans toy version, and sometimes I like a Mastermind Creation offering. It all depends on the specific character and design, and when I look at those great pictures they put up on the internet of the comparisons of all 3 or 4 of them all lined up, I go, that one to me seems the best.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. When they put up the pictures like that, usually there's one out of the 3 or 4 that just calls out to me. There's just something about it. Either it's a design element or the colors or something that just calls to me, and it's like, well, that's the one I'm going to get.
I like the way you put that, because that's what it does for me as well. It's an intangible, unexplainable feeling. That's what it is. It's a feeling. And I've seen the Springer Wars. Goodness gracious. How many Masterpiece Springers are out there? And I looked at all of them, and, I went with the Open and Play, the super cheap one, not because he looked the best, but that price called out to me.
Oh, definitely.
The price gave me a really good feeling in my bank account. Bang for your buck. Sometimes that's a thing as well. And that Open and Play, I mean, there are debates about, how it measures up to the other ones. I don't think that's a fair debate at all. No. Not at all. It's half the price. But I think in terms of bang for your buck, that's one of the best out there. That company in general is just, I'm so happy they're out there providing Masterpiece level, almost Masterpiece quality toys for people who can't afford it, because it's a very expensive hobby sometimes.
Yeah, yes, it definitely is. And it's nice to have the options. And their Open and Play, their Galvatron and their Springer both got really good reviews. So it's nice that not only was it a cheaper option for the people, like you say, that can't afford always fans toys or, the more expensive third-party figures, but it was also good quality for them too as well.
Yeah, that's really surprising, because some of these more expensive third-party things fall apart.
Yes, they do.
As much as I like X-Transbots, sometimes I've had a few of them where they just fall apart. Stress marks immediately, cheap plastic. It makes no sense. So the fact that a company like Open and Play is making really durable, this Big Spring is what he's called. He reminds me a lot of the old '80s Transformers because as fragile as Transformers were, and they're more fragile than a lot of other '80s toys, they were still '80s toys, so they had a little bit of durability to them. And these Masterpiece, the official Takara and some of the other third-party Masterpiece stuff is so fragile. I don't want to play with it at all. I don't want to mess around with it because it just like fingers fall off and hinges break and like it's just they're not meant to be played with. They're display pieces. So when I handled Big Spring, I thought, man, this guy, he looks really good. And he feels like I could bounce him like down the stairs and he won't break.
Wow. See, yeah, I wouldn't do that with my Fans Toy Springer.
Exactly.
No way.
So, what about you? What do you think is the best Transformers line?
I've got to 100% agree with you, Michael. I've still got all my G1s from when I was a kid, and I couldn't part with them. They're part of what I grew up with. They're part of who I am. So yeah, I've definitely got to go with G1.
And, and if someone said, okay, that goes without saying, but what about like Power of the Primes? Or I mean, there's been how many dozens and dozens of lines since G1?
Yeah, there has. I'll be honest with you. I haven't bought a Hasbro figure since, what was it, their Thrilling 30, which came out in, what, 2014, I think.
Who's in that set?
I think the last Hasbro figure I got was their Titans Class Metroplex.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think that was the last Hasbro figure I got. And at that point, I was still doing the Chug scale figures. Mm-hmm. And I bought a lot of third-party figures of those, like the Fans Project Stunticons. I've got all those. You know, that was a great set. And I do have a lot of Hasbro Chug figures, but it seemed like the third-party, they started getting away from the Chug figures, and they started going all the Masterpiece line. And I was kind of left out, hung out to dry. And Hasbro's quality, it wasn't as good as it used to be.
Not at all.
No. So I decided, well, it was kind of like me going from DVD to Blu-ray. It's like, do I really want to do this? But then when I got my first one, I was like, yep, I do. Yeah. So I went from Chug to Masterpiece scale, and I'm glad I did because they're really wonderful. I mean, they're beautiful display pieces, but like you said, I'd feel safer pulling my G1 Constructicons out and playing with those for the afternoon than I would, you know, playing with any third-party Masterpiece figures that I have.
Yeah, I love
but they sure do look good displayed.
Yeah, I love the posability of them. They remind me of 1/6 scale figures, like Hot Toys figures. So, like the thing I like about figures, toys, that type of stuff that are mainly meant for display is the posability. It makes it so that I never get tired of it. Like a Hot Toys figure, even though it's the same figure that's been sitting in my shelf there for 5 years, I give them a new pose and it's like a new figure. So that's the nice thing about the Masterpiece figures, especially considering how bad the articulation was on the G1 figures, the G1 toys. Like they had almost no articulation. Most of them just arm, right? Maybe a fist. If it's removable, you technically can twist it around. So to go from famine to feast with these Masterpiece figures, and they've got ball joints and, you know, shoulder ball joints, hip and wrist and individual fingers, still blows my mind to this day when they started coming out with those. You can do your little hand signals, the Spidey web shooting. I'm just looking around the toy room here and looking at some of the different poses I have, and it's the same deal as the Hot Toys stuff. You know, I've got a Masterpiece Megatron in his pose where he's shooting Prime from the movie. I've got Rodimus opening the Matrix, and when I get tired of that, you know, Rodimus is doing something else. He's blasting with his exhaust blasters, and it just keeps it perpetually fresh and interesting.
Yes, it does, especially when you take the time to, you know, you got to dust them. Once the shelves are on, that's usually when I take the time to, okay, he's been in this pose now for a while. I'll switch him up a little bit and move characters around. So, but yes, definitely, it's so nice to have the posability that they do, and just to be able to set them up in different diorama style fight scenes or whatever you want to do with them. The options are out there, definitely. So it's nice. It's definitely nice. The G1s, like you said, they were pretty much straight arm, except for Optimus Prime. Right out of the gate, he had elbows. Who knew?
Knees, feet, everything.
Yeah, he
Shoulder.
was way ahead of his time.
His head would move too. I discovered later on when I was taking his head apart. If you took the rub sign off of the top of the cab, there's a screw hole there. So I loosened the screw hole, and that lets if you loosen it just a tiny bit, it lets his head move left and right.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not sure if the original one had it, later releases had it, a little securing peg in front. So that peg, even if you loosen the screw, the head still won't move. So I just slipped an X-Acto knife in there. I cut the peg, because back when I did that, it wasn't like, this is very valuable. One day this will be a precious collectible. No,
this
man.
is my retirement.
Exactly. These were toys. Some of them got smashed with a hammer because battle damage, right?
Sure.
We didn't think. I mean, the world has changed, and things that had no value or, they were fun, but we didn't think they'd be precious. They were treated as fun items, not precious items. So you can't really look back and go, why did I do that?
What was I thinking?
It was felt right at the time. But I do like some of the newer Hasbro stuff. I don't have any of it, but that Power of the Primes line gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling because that harkens back to G1 so much. And they've sort of been doing it in the last couple of years. The Titans Returns has been going back to the old designs too. But that Power of the Primes line, like, I almost picked up the Optimus and the Rodimus when I saw them at Toys R Us here in Canada. Almost, because they looked so G1. They called out to me, like you said, but the Toy Museum called out louder and said, "You don't have any room left. Where are you going to put it?"
Right, exactly.
So yeah, if something gets purchased for the intent of display, it has to be something really, like Terminus Giganticus. It needs to be off the charts, mind blowing. But just looking around my room, I have a couple of the newer Hasbro. I mean, to me, it's new because, I'm an old fogey. 10 years is new to me. But I have that Metroplex that came out a while ago with the chrome face. I think that was San Diego Comic-Con exclusive.
Yes.
So I like it for the size. That was an itch I always wanted to scratch, to get a giant Metroplex, because the original one was way too small for what it was supposed to be, right? Like, I think if they could go back and do it over again, Fortress Maximus should have been Metroplex.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Like the scales should have been reversed. So when I saw that giant Metroplex, I wanted a big Metroplex more than I wanted an accurate looking Metroplex to the original. So I picked him up, and I like him, but there's so much room for improvement there. He kind of looks like, and a lot of the newer stuff has this problem too. It's like a blend of G1 and the Michael Bay movies. It's like they're trying to please both fans by mashing them together. So Metroplex is kind of blocky, like G1, but he's also kind of spindly, kind of, that look of the Michael Bay movies. They look like aliens or something, like H.R. Giger aliens.
They do. Instead of they should have stuck with one or the other. Either gone with the G1 route or gone with not so much the Michael Bay route that far, but something along those lines if they were going to do that to modernize it. But making a mix of both instead of, to me anyway, instead of drawing people in, they're kind of alienating people. But the things are flying off the shelves, so what do I know?
Yeah, what do we know exactly?
Yeah. But I'll be honest with you. I just sold my Metroplex here to a good friend of mine just a couple of weeks ago. Uh, he just didn't fit the aesthetic of my collection anymore, going the masterpiece route. And he just, with Fans Toys Terminus Giganticus standing next to him, he looked out of place.
Yeah, he looks very
So,
thin. That's another thing. I'm looking right at mine, and the waist is way too thin. He's too, again, I use that word spindly. And what's absolutely tragic about the thing is he's got no strength in his hips, like design flaw or production flaw. I got
well,
I got the same one as a lot of people got of this one. He just cannot stand on his own, and that really, really sucks to have
it does.
like a. That was the whole reason I bought him, because he's big, but he can't stand because he's big. So
Hmm.
he's there. I like having a giant Metroplex, but if Fans Toys or DX9 came out with their Metroplex, I wouldn't bat an eye if I could sell this guy and make a significant dent in the cost of a new Metroplex. Like I'm not in love with this. Is it a Titans Returns Metroplex or is it Cybertron?
I
I'm
well,
tired.
the one I had was I think it was just from the Thrilling 30 because it was their 30th anniversary, but it was just a Titans class.
I'm
But I
going
can't remember
to.
what line it was from. But
Yeah, I'm pretty bad with all of those lines, but I'm just looking it up right now.
I too. Now they're coming out with what, Siege for Cybertron, or yeah, I can't keep up with them all.
I'm looking right at the box, but of course the box doesn't say what it is, like
Mhm.
what line it's from. It just actually, I think you're right. It just says the 30 thing.
The Thrilling, what was it? Was it Thrilling 30? Was that it?
Thrilling 30 biggest
Something
trans.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's all it was then. I thought it was part of a different subline, but there you go. The
Because I think that
Thrilling
was the
30.
same line. I think that was the same line that their Springer. No, that was Generations, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Springer was Generations. Gee, so many have come out.
But I find that I guess if I were to say, someone were to ask, "What's your favorite Transformers line besides third party masterpiece?" Like, again, if that's if that goes without saying, if I had to pick from one of the other ones, I'd have to go with the new one, Power of the Primes, because it's like they're dropping that Michael Bay aspect of the design and they're going back to just big and blocky and bulky, which I love for
Yeah,
Transformers.
yeah, same here. Same here. That's what I first saw on the TV. Back when I was, well, I don't want to say how old I was when the cartoon came out, but yeah, when I remember the coming home from school and turning on the TV after homework, and there they were, and oh my goodness, yep, just big and blocky, and the best thing I'd ever seen in my life.
And you can really tell that the guys who are working on that particular line are huge Transformers fans. Like they're Dinobots in that line. Are the
Oh,
best Dinobots I've seen since, well, G1 or the third party stuff.
yes, they definitely have a callback to the G1 roots, don't they?
Yeah. Now, in terms of gimmicks, like the thing with Masterpiece is sometimes when they try to do the combiner gimmick, it doesn't really work all that well.
Right.
Let me see here. Power Baser, I'm looking right at you.
Mm,
It's a really nice looking thing, but I can't really complain too much because the G1 version also has of Power Master Prime has the same issue where he looks really, you know, girth. He's got a lot of girth. I'm trying to say he's kind
right.
of bulky, and it's like they got him to combine by any means necessary. So the nice thing about lines like Power of the Primes, like the Optimus and the Rodimus, they're combiners, right? They combine with their trailer, and I think
Right.
those worked out really, really well. Like, because it's intended for a play toy, not a display thing. So it's kind of interesting how sometimes the toy looks better than the actual adult collector piece.
Yeah, definitely. And, has more playability and will probably last longer if it falls off a shelf.
Yeah, I I don't know about that though anymore. Like it's in theory it should, but the plastics they're using these days, just in general. Have you picked up any of the reissues from Walmart?
I have not. I've just seen reviews and just word of mouth on the internet, but no, I've just heard that. I guess they feel lighter, cheaper.
Yep, exactly. That's what I was just about to say. So I haven't done a review on them yet, but here's a little, advance heads up to the Patreon listeners. I have picked up the Starscream and the mini bots, and the first thing I thought when I saw the Starscream box, like when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Because they're bringing the old boxes back, and the boxes are just as special as the toy inside. When I picked it up, I realized this is very cheap material. Like if you were to put it
Wow.
side by side with an original G1, because I have a couple of G1 boxes, and when I compare, definitely the paper feels sturdier, the print quality is better, glossier on the original stuff. So, yeah, they're doing it on the cheap, which kind of sucks when when something's so special to you and you pick it up and you look at it and you go, "Huh, they cut corners." So, the Starscream I haven't opened because I think I won't even. I just basically bought them to display in box behind my masterpiece. But I did open the mini bots. Same deal with the cards. Really flimsy compared to the originals. Not as good quality on the print. So I open them up, and immediately, that's the first thing I noticed. Lighter, chalky, cheaper plastic. And it is really noticeable to me because I've had the originals for my whole life, right? Like
Right.
I know how they feel. I know how they move, how they, you know, transform. I just, it's intrinsic, right? It's in my DNA at this point. I know exactly how it should feel. And so when I open up like a Outback, I know some people go, "You open the Outback." He's the chase figure. But when I opened them up and I went, what, like this is cheap. They cut corners again. So
Wow.
that's really disappointing, especially considering how much they cost. They do not cost, they're not cheap. And
Oh no, Starscream's what? He's like $30, isn't he?
yeah, and the Devastator set here is like 100 Canadian, which works out
Right.
to, you know,
Right.
$25 US maybe.
I just seen. I just seen. I think yesterday on one of the forums, or not forums, but one of the pages on Facebook that the reissue Devastator has been found or cited in the U.S. and it was $74.
Yeah, that sounds about right because he's 100 here, and that's about the conversion rate.
That'd be
So,
about right.
so again, like for anyone who hasn't picked those up yet, or maybe if you have and you haven't opened them up yet, I can't speak for all of them, but for the ones that I've seen, something stinks in Iacon. Like
Mhm.
it looks nice from a bit of a distance, but it's just really disappointing to me because those reissues that came out in Toys R Us, I like when was that in
Oh, geez, that would have been. I was trying to think
the
when I
aughts? Is it called
we yeah when my wife and I saw the Power Master Optimus Prime reissue, and I was dumb and passed it up. But I just got that one here, what, a month or so ago. But
Mhm.
03, 04 maybe. It,
Yeah,
it was a while
the
ago.
early 2000s. So it's just strange to me that when those came out, um, like I've seen some collectors at collector shows, they snub their nose at reissues. They think, oh, how impure, but those were really good quality. I have quite a few of those, and they weren't exactly cheap either, but they were built
No.
similar to how the original ones were built. They're tough. So I don't
Did
think
you notice any? Did you notice any differences between any of them? I'll be honest with you. All of mine are still mint and sealed box. I haven't opened any of them,
of
so I haven't messed with them at all. So, but did you notice that any of the ones that you opened, was there any difference between the originals and the reissue?
not like there are some paint application differences, but in terms of actual engineering and functionality, I've got to say they're almost exactly like the originals from my perspective. Like if I pick up and transform a prowl or a trailbreaker or an ironhide, the quality of plastic is very, very similar because I have an original ironhide and I have a reissue. Really, it's only the color. Like the reissue color of ironhide is, I'm talking about the Encore.
Okay, yeah.
But the ironhide Encore is a little bit darker, but it's pretty much exactly the same quality of plastic. The color is basically it, but in terms of functionality, you push a button. It's nice and crisp, like Soundwave's ejector ejects properly. If it's an Encore, it's going to have a heck of a lot more spring in the missiles. So that's a really cool part about the Encore reissues. You get to actually have some power in those springs, a lot more sometimes than we got in the North American reissues or the in North American original releases. I remember my original Optimus Prime, when you pressed his roller ejector, the thing just kind of sadly, pathetically rolled out, right? And I didn't know. I thought it was awesome, right? Oh my God, he's rolling. But when I got the, what's that?
Yeah, because his name's Roller, so that's what he ought to do. Mine always had plastic spurs on the wheels, so his name should have been Power Slide because I'd hit the thing and he'd take a sharp right turn. That'd be about it.
Yeah, and when I got my first Optimus reissue ever, I think was New Year Convoy. I think that's the first reissue of Prime I ever got. Open him up and put Roller in there and hit the button, and oh my God, he didn't even hit the ground. He just flew and hit the wall. Like it was insane. You know how he is supposed to roll out of the trailer, roll down the ramp? He didn't. He like almost went up. He did not. When I hit the button, the contact with the trailer ceased. He just launched. No trailer, no ramp, just boom. And wow. I thought, oh my God, like this is the Japanese version. That's amazing. Holy smokes.
Unreal.
Yeah. So like in terms of reissues, I liked the older Takara stuff, but while we're on the topic of reissues, this new Takara Tomy stuff, their reissues as well as their masterpiece, I am out. I have tapped out, and their quality is so dreadful. It's unforgivable. Like their masterpiece, Hot Rod. Did you ever hear about that whole thing?
Yes, I have.
The chrome on his pipes is all worn up. It's like worse quality than a knockoff company.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And they're all like that.
Yeah, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
So, and that's not an isolated event. Unfortunately, that's become the norm. And I think it's been that way since the Tomy merger. But a lot of their stuff that they put out now is just, it's got horrible paint problems, functionality problems. A couple of the reissues, pieces don't fit together right, or they're just super loose. Like legs are super loose right out of the box on one of my side swipes. It's just kind of strange how bad it is, and there's so many complaints about their masterpiece line. I don't even look at their masterpiece stuff anymore. Like I am 100% third party loyal now when it comes to Transformers, because it's like their Shockwave came out, the official Takara Shockwave, and I think, you know how some people go, well, it has to be official, right? I'm loyal to the official Takara brand. I'll never buy a third party. They think that they're, they don't want to be supporting the third party companies, the unlicensed stuff. So I think it really paints a picture when someone buys that Takara Shockwave masterpiece instead of, what were the other ones? Quake Wave, and then there was the one I have, I think is called Laser Wave. He was a really cheap one, but looks amazing, beautiful, purple metallic paint. He looks a million times better than the official one, and he's, I think, like quite a bit less.
Yeah, when I first bought him, I'd seen him and I pre-ordered him, and then when I got him, very, very, very disappointed. Very disappointed.
So he's one of the newer ones. How is the actual like paint and build quality of him?
The uh, the paint was good on him, except for the spring for his that's supposed to be his cable wire that runs from his backpack to his arm. That already started to chip on me. And then I don't know, the legs especially were just hollow, and they just felt cheap and flimsy. And I just didn't care for it. So I ended up putting him aside, and I got Fans Toys Quake Wave, and I love him. He's great. He's great. Very sturdy, very well built, die cast. But you can go overboard on the die casting figures too. So that's probably a topic for another conversation. But
Yeah.
Just leaps and bounds better than the officials. So,
And I don't get the price of the Takara stuff. I just don't like it's twice as much as they should be charging. Sometimes.
Yep, you're paying for the name. Yep, you're paying for the name.
Like the Masterpiece Megatron looks fantastic. But wow, that price, when they slap that price on him, of course there's going to be 2 or 3 companies like just straight knocking it off. We're not even talking about an original design like Apollyon or, all of the other ones.
Was it Mitron?
Mitron, yeah. But there's been a couple companies that have taken the Masterpiece Takara, the new Megatron, and they've just straight reproduced him, but improved him. So I remember back in the old days, you could find Transformers knockoffs, but they were awful. Like they
were terrible.
Just terrible. It's kind of like those fun school G.I. Joes, right?
Yes.
The colors were all terrible. The quality was crap. Like if you remember those original A-Team Galoob figures, the little G.I. Joe sized ones.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, that's what the original Transformers knockoffs were, and they were terrible and super cheap too. But
something your grandparents would get you for Christmas because they didn't know any better, and it was cheap.
Yeah, they picked it up at the dollar store or the convenience store. But like the new companies, like the companies that are knocking off the official stuff that's too expensive, are improving it. They're actually making little sculpt tweaks, better paint job. Like the Takara Megatron, like it was never an option for me because of price anyway, but I just didn't really dig the cartoon gray, like the gray paint job. To me Megatron is shiny, right? So I ended up picking up for really cheap one of the KO. I have no idea which one he is because there's a couple of them, but he's basically metallic. Like he's shiny silver colored, whereas the official one isn't.
Right. Yeah, the official one, I've got him. He's kind of like a dull gray, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe with a little bit of fleck metallic in it, but yeah, nothing. He's definitely not shiny. But it's like you said, Michael. He's a beautiful figure, but I'm never going to transform him.
Yeah, that's another problem. I had the original I think that's why I'm kind of gun shy with a lot of these Masterpiece Transformers. I had that original 12-inch Masterpiece Megatron.
Oh yeah, the old MP5. I've still got him too.
Terrible. He's in a bin somewhere, Rubbermaid, but. Absolutely.
Mine's on the shelf that we don't speak of.
That could be an episode in itself. Just everything that was wrong with that figure, the look of it, the feet that immediately started to rust. I have never seen that ever with anything. Like the immediate Did you get the rusty feet on yours?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I don't get that. What is he made out of?
I don't know. You got me. But yeah.
Cosmic rust.
Cosmic rust. Yep.
Which would have been charming if the whole thing was made out of it. But if it's just a feet, it's kind of weird. And then just to transform him is another nightmare. And I did, like as careful as I was, I ended up breaking him.
Did you really?
Yeah, they're
Wow.
not a big piece, but you know, something broke off the back, and I just went, "Yep." So that that just happened, and
Yep.
there's, you know, if I'm doing that, because I never force anything. I'm very slow and careful. I look up
Right.
multiple videos online to see how everything's supposed to work, and it's just it wasn't meant to do what they're trying to make it do.
No. And he wasn't cheap for back in the day either.
No, no,
I
not
don't
at all.
remember exactly how much he was, but I know he was pricey.
Not at all. So we've talked a little bit about our favorite lines, past and present. What do you want to see in the future of Transformers?
Ah, boy, the future of
Because
Transformers.
here's what's going to happen pretty soon. It happened with Masters of the Universe Classics, and we're just kind of left standing with our hands in our pockets going, now what? When Mattel finished the entire original line, we're just basically getting like obscure cartoon characters in the classic line, right? Or
Right.
redos of original releases, now cartoon version. So we're getting close to every G1 animated Sunbow character basically getting a third party or an unofficial masterpiece release. And so what happens when they finish the line? Where
That's a
do
good
where
question.
do we go from there? Do they just
That's
keep
a good.
tweaking because they're doing that, and it's kind of irritating if you've dropped the money on a character and then all of a sudden, like for instance, Red Alert. I have the Takara anime Red Alert,
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this,
and
and
then
yes, that irritates
Bad
me
Cube
too.
comes out with this pretty good looking Red Alert, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I look at my wall and I think, does this whole thing need to be replaced in 5 years? Like,
Exactly.
they're just gonna
Exactly.
keep redoing, and then I think this kind of sucks. But they have to do it, right? For, you know, because it's money. Takara is doing another masterpiece, Optimus. So, of course, that it's going to sell. It's going to make profits. That's good. But another masterpiece, Optimus.
Yeah.
So everyone who bought the last one, what are you going to do, right?
Yeah, and I finally got a hold of an MP10 about a year and a half ago. I finally found one new in box that the guy didn't want to write leg for,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
finally got one. And then probably 6 months later, they introduced version 3.0. So it's like buying a computer. You buy it and take it home, and it's out of date.
yeah. And that's too
So I
bad.
I don't know if I'm going to update him or not. I mean, I like MP10, but then the collector in me says, yeah, but that new Optimus, he looks pretty good. Yeah, you're right, he does. So I don't know.
That's one of my biggest annoyances about that particular section of my collection. That the original plan was to have an original G1 and then like an updated, more posable looking one to accompany him for display. And I really like how it looks, but you know, it is, and it's not a big deal. It's not like I need anything, but when I have an X Transbots Power Glide and he sits there for a couple of years, and then DX9 comes out with a Richtofen, and I go, oh man, huh. I just think like, is this a never ending spending venture that you just have to at some point draw the line and say, nope, no more
You do.
upgrades, no
You do.
new uh, Masterpiece Optimus, you know, version 3 or 4 or 5 or 6.
What
And
I've got is good enough.
yeah, eventually, like, you just have to, and I know they're going to do more Dinobots. Like, this is probably where the third parties are going in the future. Because a company like Fans Toys, once they've done all of the big sellers, why would they do some of the more obscure characters like the clones? Although maybe they are doing them. I'm not really up to date on what they're doing. But like why would they do the really obscure characters that wouldn't sell a lot when they could just redo the Dinobots and people will
Right.
buy them because they have that thing that goes, "Oh, you made them better. I need to get them."
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so like
Um,
repaints is one thing, right? Like, and they do the cartoon version, the toy version. That's one thing. That's a repaint. That's okay. But to just totally redesign, overhaul it, and sell it again, it's like, oh man, now, you know, that I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me when I've already dropped the money on the previous version. It's not exactly like a
exactly.
new car coming out every 5 years, right?
Right, right, exactly. When you were talking about DX9 earlier, that Richtofen figure, that was kind of a weird one, wasn't it? I loved Power Glide as a kid. He's still one of my favorite Autobots. I had never owned a DX9 figure before until he came out. I saw him. Said, "Oh, gorgeous! I've gotta get him. I'm gonna dive in the deep end, and I'm gonna get a DX9 figure." I'm glad I didn't wait, because the original one that I have, he's great. He's perfect. Then they decide to come out with another wave of him, and something's wrong with the feet.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't
how
pin
do
together.
you do that? Yeah, how do you do that? And then now they've got what, two different KOs of him that just came out,
Yeah, for half
and
the
I guess,
price.
yeah, for half the price. And I mean, I guess he displays okay, but there's some joint tolerances and paint stuff, and but yeah, it was weird. The first release of Richtofen was good, and then the next one's not. So I don't know.
It's weird
I don't
because
know.
they're usually supposed to fix all of the issues with the second wave. That's usually
Yes,
the advantage of waiting. But
yes.
yeah, I think they included the pin with the second version so that you could swap it out yourself and
Oh,
fix
did
it.
they?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so. I've had my eye on him for a while. I actually tried to order the original one, and it just, for whatever reason, there wasn't enough stock. The thing never showed
Hmm.
up. So I was thinking of getting the second one, but it is so expensive, $80 US for like shipped for,
Wow.
I guess for a third party company, some would think that that's not a bad price, but when you look at the same figure that's being KO'd by the KO company, and that's really funny to me when a company like DX9 makes an unlicensed Power Glide, and then two other companies say, "Hey, yoink," and they steal that design. Like, what are you going to say? You stole our
Yep.
design. Well, you
Yeah.
stole your design from Transformers, from Hasbro.
Exactly.
So I've been thinking of
Exactly.
getting either Richtofen or one of the cheaper KOs because those are a little more reasonably priced. But right now I have the X Transbots glider. He's tiny, but he's charming. I kind of like him. So I think I'll probably upgrade to Richtofen eventually. But it's
If
one
you
of
can find a original version of him, the first release, he's definitely worth it. A great figure. Great
yeah.
figure. I'm glad I got one.
And the only DX9 figure I have, actually two, I think. I have their Galvatron, which
Okay.
was ridiculously cheap. It was on an insane sale on eBay. Let's just say it was less than Richtofen. So how much does that make
Wow.
sense? Yeah, it was
Wow.
really cheap. So I picked them up because I've got the Fans Toys Galvatron, which looks great, I think, in robot mode, but I don't really dig his cannon mode. So I picked up the DX9 and I keep him in cannon mode. I think he looks fantastic. Nice quality, not really the highest of the third parties for that particular offering, but he's actually really impressive for the price.
Especially if you got him that cheap.
Oh yeah,
That's great.
it's like Big Spring again. It's bang for your buck. When I get a lot of bang for my buck, I tend to not nitpick. So
Definitely.
I know there are a lot of people who nitpick everything, whether it's cheap or expensive. It's just their nature. But when I get that good of value, I have to give more compliments than criticisms. So I got really nothing bad to say about Tyrant. And then the other DX9 figure I have is that Mitron?
Yeah. I think my Tron was DX9.
Yeah, and that one is pretty nice too. He's nice and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sturdy. He kind of feels more. The DX9 in general stuff to me feels a little more meant for play than display. Like if that makes any sense. Like it feels like the Big Spring open and play one to me. It feels like you can actually move the joints a lot more without breaking it. And they hold the poses maybe a little bit better. I don't know. They just have that old '80s toy vibe to them a little bit more than something like Fans Toys, which those look awesome, but those are like video game characters come to life. They're powerful and intimidating, and badass, that word that gets used so much these days. Like they're just the fans toy stuff is so cool. It's so awesome looking. Whereas sometimes like a character is not meant to be badass looking. You know, like Hoist is not supposed to be a badass. Hoist looks
Not so much.
ridiculous.
He does.
So when I was trying to decide on which Hoist to get, I actually went with Bad Cube's because he looks ridiculous. Like I thought Bad Cube's Hoist really captured the look of the character. He's a big goof, right?
Hmm.
He's prissy and he's a goof. So it's not always which guy looks the coolest. I know when it comes to the big Omegas, the big debate is which is better, Terminus Giganticus or DX9 Gabriel. And I had to go with Fans Toys, just because to me it seemed a little more toy to me than DX9, which was going for the cartoon look.
Right. Right. That's one of the reasons I went with that one too. Um, a lot of times I go with fan toys is because their quality is just, it's really good. I mean, they've had their flops, don't get me wrong, but 9 times out of 10, the fans toys figures that I have are just really well built, sturdy, and good quality.
Yeah,
Um,
Fans Toys reminds me of what Takara used to be.
yes, yes, definitely.
So the feel of the plastic, the paint applications, really sharp, precise paint applications, the attention to detail, and the pride in the workmanship. It's there in Fans Toys. And yes, there are exceptions. There's exceptions for everything, but I look at a lot of my fans. Well, I don't have a lot of Fans Toy stuff, but I've got Terminus and I've got the Dinobots of theirs, and it's consistent. Like every single one is really, really well made, and it looks like a company that said we won't put crap out. If it's crappy,
Yeah,
we will not sell it. Whereas other companies go, whatever, just
good enough,
get it out the
good
door.
enough.
Did you
And
hear?
you can tell. Um, I just recently got. I'm doing the Zeta bots for Bruticus because he's got to be the same size as Constructor, Toy World's Constructor for me. Once you go Constructor, I
Yeah.
just can't go small. Sorry. So I decided, well, I got a really good deal on Unique Toys, what is it, Rage Winter Chill or whatever he's called, their Vortex. And I'd seen reviews where, he's an okay figure, but the G1 aesthetics, da 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 da. Well, I just got him in the mail this morning, so I was kind of messing with him a little. Really, really nice figure. My first actual Unique Toys figure too. But yes, you can tell that one was rushed because the weapons don't. He doesn't hold his weapons at all.
Oh, that
They won't
sucks.
stay in the. When you put him in helicopter mode, the weapons are supposed to plug into the side, and they don't. They don't plug in at all. The ports on his hands are too big, and the ports on the side of the helicopter are too big. You can tell it was rushed just to get it out there to finish the set, and it's too bad. They could have spent a couple of more weeks or a month or however long it would have taken to get it right, and people would have bought it anyway.
Yeah.
But they got to rush things, and then you end up with stuff like this. So it was kind of a letdown, but.
Well, that's a missed opportunity because, like Fans Toys, when they started this thing, I don't remember what their first offering was, but their first couple offerings are the reason why they have the reputation they have right now. You don't really
Yes.
put out a whole bunch of crap at the beginning and then regain your reputation. Like Bad Cube sort of did that with Cube X Huff, which was
Hmm.
which I have and I like him, but I like him from a distance. Like I don't mess with him because of what I've heard and what I feel too. Like when I pick him up, I go, "Yep, that's pretty accurate."
You were talking about the Cubex Huff now, and when you were talking about the Hasbro reissues that they're putting out now, it reminds me of something my friend says: "Good from far, but far from good."
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So Cubex ended up changing their name because I think their reputation right out of the gate was so tarnished by Huff. They changed their
Mhm.
name to Bad Cube. And correct me if I'm wrong, did they change their name again? Or are they still
Um,
are they still
I
Bad
think
Cube?
think they're still Bad Cube because they just came out with what was it? The Sideswipe and Red Alert. That was Bad Cube, wasn't it?
Right, right. Maybe I'm thinking old. They call their figures old time series, right?
Yeah, that's the series. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's not a name
But yeah,
change.
as far as I know, they're still Bad Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you hear about the DX9 Gabriel initial release and all of the problems
Yeah,
that came
something
along with that?
about sweaty paint or something, and
They were wet. People were
yeah.
opening them up, and the box was dry, but when they would open them up, the toys were wet and they had mold in them.
Oh,
So
geez.
wherever they were assembled, they were just sitting out in a place that could be rained on, I guess, or was very humid. And they got packed up like that instead of, drying out. And people were opening up their very, very expensive, very huge Omega Supreme, unofficial Omega Supremes, and they're dripping and they got mold on them. And it boggled my mind when people were discussing and debating about which is better, Fans Toys or DX9 for Omega. And there were so many people who were just okay with mold and drenched Transformer. I did not get it. Like they were so blindly loyal to this decision that they made that they were okay with mold being in this thing. And
That's ridiculous.
you don't get that out. Like you can try to open them up and dry them up, but there's always going to be a little mold in there somewhere. It's
yes.
yeah, like that's a return. That's an easy return. So
If I had gotten Terminus and he had mold, he would have gone back.
yeah, like I don't get the inability.
I love Fans Toys, but not that much.
Exactly. Like I think it's a case of being unable to swallow your pride, because some people like to turn everything, not just this stuff, but everything into a competition, right?
Oh yeah.
So because they may not be sports fans, they turn Terminus versus Gabriel into a competition, and they have their team and they cheer against the other team. And so it doesn't matter if the thing would show up without a head. It doesn't matter if every Gabriel showed up without a head. Oh well, that's okay.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough.
Yep. Good enough.
Go DX9. And as silly as that sounds, it happened. I don't feel as though I'm blowing things out of proportion, because it wasn't just a few people. There was a lot of people who got a moldy Omega and they were cool with it. Like, oh well, I'll hang them out to dry.
Yeah.
So,
yep, I'd seen that all on the groups I'm a member of on Facebook. A lot of them on there. Yeah, I just got him today, and the box is smashed, and half of him's green, but a little pledge, fix him right up. Okay, whatever.
And what did he go for? 300 or something?
Something like that. Yeah, he wasn't either.
Unacceptable for that.
Yep,
for that amount of money, unacceptable.
Definitely.
Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think we're gonna.
Two quick more things.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
This will be for Tom. We were going to talk about the Fans Toys, or which Dinobots we thought were the best.
Right.
Like I said, I could only go with Fans Toys because those are the ones that I have. But I have friends that have the Gigapower ones, and they love those. The Gigapower ones are more, I would say, toy accurate, and they're taller than the Fans Toys ones. So keep that in mind. But you can't go wrong with either one, as far as I'm concerned. I just went with Fans Toys because I had owned Fans Toys products, and I was very satisfied with it. So I went that route. But I guess the Gigapower ones are really, really, really good too. And the other thing I wanted to mention too was that X Transbots is very much improved here in the last year. I never got any figures before their Klaatu figure. He got such good reviews, I decided to try it. So I did, and I was very satisfied. So I got their Crack Up figure, which is Breakdown. Good figure. Not perfect, but what figure is, good figure. But I was so impressed with them. They're doing an Ollie reissue, their wheelie, with like 18 things that they've supposedly fixed or improved. So I pre-ordered him too. So we'll see.
Is there another Ollie? Because they came out with a
Yeah.
fixed Ollie not too long ago.
Yep, there's another one coming out.
There's
He's
another
supposed to,
one.
yep, towards the end of this month, along with their skids.
Yeah, I have the original, and he is an adorable piece of crap. I got him sitting up on a giant Grimlock, Reximus Prime, I think he's called. And again, he's good from afar, but far from good. He can't stand, literally can't stand. I mean, even the most unsturdy G.I. Joe, you could sort of kind of get him to stand eventually. Ollie, I cannot get him to stand at all. There's nothing, no positioning, nothing. Yeah, he's feels like those new reissues at Walmart of the mini bots. So yeah, I wouldn't mind upgrading my Ollie. It would be nice if X-Transbots would give a discount to the people who own the original. I know for the last reissue, they said provide proof of purchase and we'll knock $25 or 25% off. But like it had been so long ago since I purchased him, I have no idea where that is, right?
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind Ollie, especially for the hip skirts. I think they've included, which give them more leg posability. In terms of the Dinobots, I'll just throw in my 2 cents as well. I have all of the Fans toys, and the first thing I think of when I think of my Fans toys Dinobots is ouch, that costs a lot. So yeah. They look great, but they were expensive. And
yes.
You do, in this case, you definitely get what you pay for because these are fantastic, fantastic quality. So it always comes down to personal preference. You got to look at the pictures and what calls out to you. That's what you go with. But the reason I went with Fans Toys instead of Gigapower was the size. I really like how the Gigapower look. They look very powerful.
Oh, they're beautiful.
But when I was trying to decide, I just decided maybe a little too powerful, a little too bulky. Because the problem, if they were the same height as Fans Toys, I might have went with a Gigapower. But the fact that they're that much more bulky and powerful, and they're taller, now they're too big. So
right.
I display the stuff all together. It all needs to blend together. There needs to be a harmony. And the Gigapower would be way too big.
That's one of the reasons I didn't get Fans Toys Cesium when he came out. He looked beautiful, but so much taller than the other Dinobots. It's like he really wouldn't fit, so I didn't get him.
So yeah, that's why I ended up getting the Fans Toys, and I like the robot modes of them. I gotta say, I think the Gigapower Dino modes look nicer than the Fans Toys. Like that happens a lot, right? You look at 2 different companies making the same character, and you go, well, that one robot looks better, and that one alt mode looks better. So I just liked the height and the look of the Fans Toys Dinobots, but the Gigapower, if I could ever, have an extra set, those guys would be in Dino mode, on the floor around Terminus Giganticus, because the thing about looking more powerful, it might not work for the robots, but it definitely works for dinosaurs. So give me more powerful, ferocious looking dinosaurs. So, if you want to keep them in dino mode mainly, then maybe the height issue with the robots it's not a deal breaker, right? Because the bigger the better when they're in dino mode.
Definitely.
There's no issue there. So it just comes down to personal preference.
Definitely. Did you get the G1 replacement head for Grinder?
Yep, and it's still in its original package. I set it aside. Yeah, and I was going to do a video on it, a review on Grinder, and I figured I'll open that up when I get around to doing my Grinder video.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, I'll install that in an actual video, and it's just all this other stuff keeps coming up.
Yeah.
But looking forward to doing. I did Stomp a while ago, and now that I've got the other Iron Die bots, I'm looking forward to doing the other 4.
He's getting a reissue too. I just found out.
Like a new design?
No, just a reissue.
Oh, not even
Stomp.
not even a recolor.
Yeah. No, just because Grinder and Sever, they just got reissued here
Awesome.
recently, and then Stomp's supposed to be out, I think, early next year. So
that's cool.
For those people that missed them.
Perfect, because sometimes I look at this stuff and I go, did I miss my opportunity? Like, I'm sure people will still be interested to see a video on a 7-year-old third-party Transformer, but it's always best if it's current, if it's available, if people can go out and buy it. So that's good to hear that these things are getting reissued. So,
Speaking of reissues, did you see how fast the new Fans Toys Phoenix sold out? Did you see that at all?
No. Is that that's the Jetfire, right?
Yeah, and their Fans Toys is redoing it. It's a different shade of white, and then
is it like a more cartoon gray?
I didn't really get a good look at it, but there's some comparison shots on the internet. But then the original Fans Toys Phoenix, the red that's on his calves, on his legs, is like a very metallic red, where the backpack and his arms and stuff, it's kind of a what do I say, like a dull red. Well, the reissue that's coming out, the backpack and everything is going to be like that metallic red. Okay. And he's not supposed to be out until January, and the pre-orders, everything got sold out in like 10 hours.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
And he's pricey too.
Yeah, this one's $250, I think, $249. I think the original one was $229, and he's going to be $249, something like that.
All right, well, that is our discussion on Transformers. What's the best line? Some third-party discussion there too. Scott, it's awesome to finally chat with you.
Same here, Michael. Thank you.
I love these Patreon get-togethers, these chats, roundtables. It's so awesome to be able to interact with you folks. I know that I'm talking to you in the videos, I'm looking at you through the camera lens in the videos, but it's really awesome to be able to talk with you live here on the roundtables. So if you are part of the Patreon tribe and you see a notification for one of these come up, definitely join us. It is awesome to chat with the fellow tribe members. So Scott, hope you have a great weekend, and thanks a lot for joining. Thanks.
Thank you.
And everybody else, until next time, Nerdmas Day.
Nerdmas Day.